Chapter 1. She's alive and well. From Ecclesiastes 3:11, He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end. On my first trip to Israel, the small tour I was with spent an hour in a private part of the Garden of Gethsemane that was open only by appointment. Once inside the walls and away from the crowds, we were transported to another time. As we meandered through 2,000-year-old olive trees, I felt I was inside one of the few places in Israel that carried the weight of authenticity back to the time of Christ. We eventually gathered on a large boulder in the back, and while facing Temple Mount, we contemplated what Jesus had accomplished on the cross. Imagine my joy when taking my wife there 17 years later. She wasn't on the first tour, and I couldn't wait to share the rustic ambience of this garden with her. When we arrived on our last day, I was nearly bursting with anticipation. However, as we walked through the gate, I knew something had gone horribly wrong. Stone-lined pathways cut through the garden. Stacks of outdoor chairs littered the grounds. I hurried to the back of the garden in search of the boulder and could not find it. In its place stood a large, elevated stone patio with amphitheater seating for 100 people, all facing a huge lectern stuck on a metal pole. My heart sank as confusion set in. This couldn't be that same garden. I sought out our tour representative and asked him about the garden I had been in last time. He looked at me puzzled. What happened to the big rock in the back? He had only been working with this tour company for a few years and had never seen it. He assured me this was the same garden I had been in 17 years before. The boulder? Could it have been that boulder? Had been buried under the patio. The rustic garden had turned into a lecture hall, making it more useful to tourists while destroying the purpose for which they'd come. It was supposed to be so much better than this. I've had the same feeling about Christianity from my youngest days. First as a follower of Christ, then as a vocational pastor. Don't get me wrong, there were some awesome times in the congregations in which I was involved in my first 40 years, but those moments proved more fleeting than I'd hoped, and the fruit far more temporary than it ought. Is this all there is? The thought emerged in times of frustration about some conflict or flawed program. But those weren't the only times. Even when things were going well, by any external measure, in the quiet place, away from the frenetic pace, the nagging thought would surface, there must be something more. Have you had similar thoughts? I know few people who haven't, including pastors of some outwardly successful congregations. We were promised a vital relationship with God and the joy of sharing oneness and fellowship with His people, but instead we ended up with a set of disciplines, a weekly service to attend, and a set of rules to follow. And while those might be helpful for a season, somewhere along the line you just feel like something is missing. When Jesus talked about living water flowing from deep within us, or Paul referring to the church as a bride without spot or wrinkle, it made me wonder if I'd missed out somehow. Had someone covered up the real thing to make it more palatable to the masses? I looked everywhere and tried so many new ideas to seek the richness of His life that would endure the toughest of times, but always came up short. Often I tried to talk myself out of that hunger, to settle for the fact that Jesus and Paul must have been talking about spiritual realities, not practical ones. But the feeling would return. There must be something more. That thought would drive me for 20 of my adult years, alternating between seasons of working hard to find that something more, and the frustration of watching my latest hope fall short yet again. I used to open talks at pastor seminars with a brief quiz. Jesus said He would build His church, and the gates of Hades would not overcome it. He's been doing it now for 2,000 years. How do you think He's doing? Just watching people process the question was fun. Some were reticent, thinking it presumptuous of me to even suggest that we judge Jesus' work. Others pointed out wonderful things about their congregation that led them to believe He was doing a fine job.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.